you can't have everybody who has filed to run for president in a debate. You're not going to have a debate. I mean, we're talking thousands of people who file candidacy applications or declarations of candidacy. So to get it down to a true debate, there has to be some limitation.
We're not talking about thousands of people. We are talking about 3, maybe 4 candidates on the stage.
You know, if there's just the 2 men that we're now talking about up on the stage. Now, remember, there's no thing to say that there won't be somebody else. There are other qualifications. You also must be on enough ballots to conceivably get to 270 electoral votes. So it's not, as Dot said, 1,000 people will run for president.
Applying to be president, applying for candidacy, applying to be on the ballot does not mean you get to be on the ballot. You have to petition and get thousands of signatures. Thousands of signatures. There are not going to be 1,000 presidential candidates that acquire that. So no, there will not be thousands of people who qualify to be on the debate stage.
We should have checked how many have already signed up. And so that's where the 15% rule came in. In order to qualify to be invited to participate in the debate, a week before each debate, you must have reached 15% on an average of 5 leading polls.
Question from Stacy Blunt. Should the chosen polls be required to mention by name instead of other every candidate on the ballot in every state in every one of their polls?
Impossible. That's what I think. When I look at the number of persons who have filed an application for being on ballots, it would be impossible. It would not be. We would not have debates.
There are literally only 3 candidates that fit that description. How is that impossible? 3.
Question from Julian Roberts. How feasible is it for third-party candidates to meet poll requirements without poll inclusion? Would you be willing to consider alternative access requirements like ballot access?
Well, we do have ballot access. You have to be on the ballots in enough states to have a reasonable chance of being elected. That is a ballot access criteria.
Are they aware that there are currently 4 presidential candidates that meet that criteria? I don't think they do.
From Michael Hoffman, this November, Americans will see at least 4 options for president on their ballots in each state. Why are Joe Jorgensen and Howard Hawkins not allowed in the presidential debates? Do you have any plans on changing that decision?
First of all, I think it's important that you point out that they're going to be on the ballots, and that's because those parties have worked very hard over the years. They've gone out to each state, and each state has their own requirement of getting on the ballot. Some states it may be petitions signed by 50 people or 50,000 people or 100,000. Everyone's different. And those 2 parties, the Libertarians and the Greens, over the last number of years have been very aggressive and have gone out. And in fact, in the last cycle, in 2016, the Libertarians and the Greens were significant.
Well, that was super flattering, but you didn't answer the question.
In order for a third party or independent person, they have to go out and meet, as Dot talks about, the requirement to be on enough state ballots to conceivably get 270 electoral votes. So, you just can't pick and choose out of the 200 people who are running whether or not they should be on the stage.
The commission does not see its role as trying to create candidates, but rather to respond to what the citizenry and what the electorate has demonstrated in terms of support. So what you have on stage with a threshold are viable candidates that meet certain criteria.
In every cycle that the commission has been doing the debates, except 2008, we have been sued. We do our best to try to be fair to the candidates, but also fair to the American people, so that we're not clogging the stage like you see with the primary debates. We're talking about where you've got 15, 16 people on the stage, or 10 people on the stage, and each candidate, if they're lucky, gets maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
In terms of the criteria for candidates to appear on stage, in 88 and 92 and 96, there was criteria that we later saw as being more subjective.
So in 1992, there was actually a third-party presidential candidate who met the criteria to be allowed to debate, and that was Ross Perot. Ross Perot pretty much slayed. According to 3 out of 4 polls after the debates, Ross Perot was considered the winner. In 1996, Ross Perot ran again. Once again, met the criteria to be eligible to debate. Except this time, the commission decided no. For no good reason other than it was their belief that he wasn't a viable enough candidate. Does that sound to anyone else like, oh shit, he did really good in the last debate, we better keep him off the stage this time? Just me?
And so those criteria were then changed starting in 2000.
Increase the percentage required to get on that debate stage,
which was more transparent and certainly less subjective.
If by that you mean we can see through all the BS, then yes, I suppose transparent is the correct word to use.